Mikaela is our Miss Aloha. She is very goofy, outspoken, silly.
It's like looking at a splitting image of myself.
They're like the same person.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. It freaks me out a little bit. Just looking at her, I don't know, she just brightens up my day.
One day, she was only drinking water and she was sleeping like literally all day, all night. Didn't want to do anything.
She came with a few-day history of fever, had a little tummy ache that morning, but her exam was pretty suggestive that she had appendicitis. We coordinated her care at Kapiolani.
But then we went into the room and he was looking at the computer and looking at all of her results from her tests, and he said usually when they see stuff like this, the numbers were off, that it's usually a sign of leukemia.
So when the doctor told us that she had leukemia, I didn't even know. My heart just dropped. I felt like the whole world was crashing on us, crashing on me. And it was the hardest words to hear from someone, that your daughter is now fighting for her life.
Mikaela had acute myeloid leukemia that we found on the bone marrow examination and received chemotherapy starting right away.
I would say by like a month each time she had to do chemo. Then once her numbers would go up, we could go home for about a week or 2 weeks. And then we would have to go back to Kapiolani so she could do her next round of chemo.
It's probably among the strongest chemotherapy that we give to anybody, because it's designed to kill the bone marrow where the leukemia is. So that's why they're in the hospital and we're watching for these complications that can be life-threatening, actually.
She was so resilient through this whole process. She didn't care if they said the chemo was supposed to drag her down, but it seemed like it gave her more energy, So.
She would come out of her room at night, and she would dress like she was a nurse, and she would tell us, I'm gonna be a nurse when I get older. And I think as a nurse, to hear that from a patient, you obviously are making a difference in their life.
For Mikaela, she had 4 courses of chemotherapy, and unfortunately we found out that she had a genetic change in her leukemia cells that made the leukemia more difficult to treat with just chemotherapy. So we knew from the beginning that we needed to do a bone marrow transplant on her. We started doing a search for an unrelated donor on a national database, and we also, when we found out there wasn't a match there, we knew that the best course of action probably was going to be a parent.
When I found out that I was the best match, I was ready to go. Let's do this right now. I would die for that little girl.
That's a pretty momentous time when the bone marrow is actually going in. It's almost like all the docs are there watching. It marks, the final treatment in a way to get rid of her leukemia.
So finding out the bone marrow transplant worked is the best news I've heard probably my whole life. Mikaela grew so much as a young little girl, and just seeing her strength this whole time it's inspiring.
The most remarkable thing about Mikaela and her family is her spirit, that she was so sick and she went through so much. And it is just a joy to see her now.
It's like thank you isn't really enough for what they've done for not just Mikaela, but for us and our families. They are our second family, and they're passionate about taking care of these kids, and they treated Mikaela like they were her own.
Seeing Mikaela, running around, playing around, just being normal, this makes me the happiest guy in the world.